everyone.
Hello.
It's, again, time for My Thing, Your Thing.
With Hannah.
And Donovan. Today it's my thing.
Yay.
And this is a movie, but it's not a James Bond movie.
No.
I like other movies, too. No, this movie has nothing to do with James Bond. It's about secret agents who... Wait a minute. Oh, fuck. Anyway, we're talking about Men in Black 3 today.
Yeah, not Men in Black 1 or 2, Men in Black 3.
Yes, Men in Black 3. Hannah, do you know anything about Men in Black 3?
I know it involves time travel.
It does involve time travel.
That's about it.
Yep. I'm going to say something really controversial off the bat. Men in Black 3 is the best Men in Black movie.
Ooh.
Period. End of story. The first one's great. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
And the second one, I think... You know, it's not as good as the first one.
Certainly not, no.
But I think it's a little overhated. Like, people, kind of, got too much about it. I'm like, it has its charms.
Yeah, I mean, there's some good callback jokes. Like, there's some stuff that went on a little bit too long. It kind of sucks a little bit to me that they, I understand why they brought Tommy Lee Jones back.
Yeah.
But it kind of sucks to me that he wasn't just allowed to, retire in peace.
Yeah. It's
be a
also...
happy postal worker.
It's also kind of funny that, apparently, the reason they didn't bring What's-Her-Face from the first movie back is because Tommy Lee Jones refused to work with her.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was apparently why that happened. And they were like, well, I guess we'll just pick
Tommy Lee Jones. Yeah.
Because he's the big star, one of them anyway. But this one, to me, is the best of the three. And we'll go into why a little later. But I think the main thing that this one has that I think... The first one doesn't have as much, and the second one also doesn't really... It has a lot of heart. It tells, a really, emotional story.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
It's about... Look, I'm a sucker for movies that are about, doing good and, those touchy-feely things,
Yeah,
you
know?
Yeah. The writer, who I'm going to talk about here in a minute, he actually said that he was inspired by, a medieval, philosopher when he was writing this story.
Really?
Yeah, because he's he was a Jewish scholar, so he had read all these old...
Oh, yeah.
So
the writer was a Jewish scholar.
Yes, the writer was, yeah. I'll get to that here in a little bit, but I'm just going to say right off the bat that I think this is the best one. If you don't think so, if you think the first one's still better, I totally understand. Don't get me wrong. I'm not, bashing you. But I really love this movie so much.
I'm excited to watch it.
Mm-hmm. So, first one was released in 1997. It was a big hit. It was apparently based on a comic book series. I never read it, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, very loosely based from what I understand.
Sure.
It was, from what I understand about the comic books, it was mostly just, very straight-laced government agents dealing with alien nonsense.
Yeah.
And then when they made the movie, they're like, well, we have Will Smith, and he's a bit more of, a comedy action guy, so we're going to give him jokes to do.
So, fine.
Yeah.
Sure. The second one came out 5 years later, 2002. Not as successful, but it's still successful. Both made tons of money.
Yes. Oh, I forgot. Sorry. As we're sitting here, I'm thinking about Men in Black 2, and I'm like, oh, yeah, there was that, giant lingerie alien monster thing in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's hot. Wood.
Sure.
So, but today we're not going to talk about either of those. We are going to talk about Men in Black 3.
Yes.
Now, Men in Black 3 started, the concept for it, during the filming of Men in Black 2. Will Smith actually went to director Barry Sonnenfeld, and he basically said, hey, there should be a movie where Agent J goes back in time to save Agent K when he's younger.
Yeah.
And apparently Barry Sonnenfeld thought that was a cool idea, and he kind of put it in his back pocket. He was like, yeah, if we do a third movie, that's kind of a neat concept.
Sure.
It took a while to get off the ground.
Yeah, I am looking at the date that this movie came out, and that's what, 10 years later?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were issues on the set of Men in Black 2. I haven't really been able to find anything specific about it, but there are general references to it being kind of a difficult production.
Oh dear.
Yeah. And it was successful, but it didn't make as much money as the first one, and it cost a lot more. So people were kind of iffy about there being another one.
Yeah.
Production did not start until 2009, which is 7 years after Men in Black 2 came out. And by that point, who gave a fuck about Men in Black anymore.
Yeah, at that point, the culture had moved on somewhat.
Yeah, people just kind of weren't really that interested. And I remember when they announced they were making a third one, I think a lot of people were like, why? Why are we doing this?
That was certainly what I thought.
Yeah, and I can totally understand it because I can totally imagine it being like a soulless cash grab, which it's not, but we'll get into it. Sony did actually not want to work with Sonnenfeld. I guess that was kind of part of the issues that they had on set. They didn't want to work with him anymore. But he had to kind of convince them. He was like, look, I've got a really good idea for this one. And he was like, I've got a vision. And they were like, all right, okay. Sonnenfeld is kind of a weird director. He has a weird history as a director.
Sure.
And I'm going to call his career spotty.
Okay.
Like, there's some stuff that he did that was great and some stuff that he did that was bad. So he got his start in the film industry working on porn.
Of course, sure.
As the cinematographer, essentially. He then started a relationship with the Coen brothers.
Okay.
He was the cinematographer for Blood Simple, Raising Arizona, and Miller's Crossing for them.
Okay.
He also did Big with Tom Hanks.
Oh, yeah.
And then he worked with Rob Reiner on 2 films that Rob Reiner made that are about as diametrically opposed to each other as possible. When Harry Met Sally and Misery.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
It's wild to think that Rob Reiner made both of those movies.
That's insane.
And they were like 2 years apart from each other. But yeah, his directorial debut was The Addams Family.
Like the first Addams
Yeah,
Family?
1991.
Oh, hell yeah.
And then he also made, of course, Addams Family Values.
Yeah.
With Academy Award-winning production designer Ken Adam.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Who also worked on...
Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Drink. All right. But he also did Wild Wild West.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And that terrible Kevin Spacey cat movie that came out in 2016.
What Kevin Spacey cat movie?
The movie that came out where Kevin Spacey plays like the cat, like he's like the dad of this girl, but he's also the cat.
Is this a movie that is distinct from the Shaggy Dog movie?
Oh yeah, it's a very different movie, but it's kind of the same movie.
Wow.
I've not seen it, but yeah. He also directed episodes of The Tick. He directed episodes of Pushing Daisies.
I love Pushing Daisies.
He directed a series of unfortunate events. He was also the executive...
The movie or the TV show?
He directed episodes of the TV show, but he was the executive producer of the movie.
Oh.
So, yeah, weird. And he also just recently did some episodes of Schmigadoon, which is a show my parents really like. And
yeah, I remember them talking about it.
I want to watch it at some point. But, yeah, just like an absolutely wild career.
Yeah.
Just like weird up and down stuff.
And then he was like, I have this really great idea for Men in Black 3. Please give me money.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of crazy. So Sony was like, sure, all right. We're going to get back Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah.
That's great, yeah. And we're going to get all the producers back, including Steven Spielberg, who was the executive producer.
Cool.
That becomes important in a minute. They hired a guy named Eaton Cohen. Not Cohen, like...
The Coen brothers?
No, different Cohen.
Sure.
Completely unrelated, but it is kind of funny. They hired a writer named Eaton Cohen to write the script. Eaton Cohen got his start working with Mike Judge in the 90s.
Okay.
He wrote for Beavis and Butthead and then later King of the Hill.
Yeah.
In between working for those, he also did Disney, like doing kids shows. Like he wrote for like Recess and Timon and Pumbaa, like the show Timon and Pumbaa. His first movie he actually co-wrote with Mike Judge, Idiocracy.
Oh,
a film
okay.
that lots of people like.
Yeah.
Then the next one he co-wrote was Tropic Thunder. Again, a movie that lots of people like. I like that movie. And then his third film that he co-wrote was Madagascar 2, a film that I don't know how many people like. It's okay. So this was his fourth movie that he was writing. Wrote the script, submitted it, and they liked it, but the producers wanted some rewrites. Specifically, I think Steven Spielberg. The reason why I say that is because the two writers he got to rewrite were a guy by the name of David Koepp and Jeff Nathanson.
Koepp at least sounds vaguely familiar.
Koepp wrote both Jurassic Park movies.
Oh, there you go.
War of the Worlds, the Raimi Spider-Man movie, Mission Impossible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Famous. Jeff Nathanson also wrote. He wrote Catch Me If You Can. He wrote The Terminal. He also apparently wrote the 2 recent CGI Lion King movies, like the
live action ones.
The
extreme quote unquote live action ones.
Yeah, and especially the more recent, like the Mufasa one.
Yeah.
He did both of those.
I always wanted a brother.
They had just worked with Spielberg, co-writing a movie that he had just finished working on when pre-production for this movie started. That was Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
I'm so glad you said something because I was about to say chitty chitty bang bang again.
No, Hannah. Wow, talk about time travel.
Yeah, time travel, man.
Yeah, so
it fits.
Obviously, Spielberg had a working relationship with these guys, and they have a great career, but like not a great starting point.
Yeah.
But they got the script that they wanted. Apparently, Jeff Nathanson specifically focused on the like period stuff, like the going back in time to 1969. I'm not sure why, but apparently they just thought that he would be good at that. You know, the rest of the production crew, not super important. I will point out that the cinematographer is a guy by the name of Bill Pope. He's kind of like a weirdly awesome cinematographer. I'll name some of the movies and you'll be like, oh, yeah, totally. He did a bunch of movies with Sam Raimi.
Okay.
Including Army of Darkness.
Okay.
All 3 of the Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
He did the 3 first Matrix films with the Wachowskis.
Yeah.
The Scott Pilgrim movie.
Okay.
Alita Battle Angel. A couple of the MCU films like Shang-Chi and the Ant-Man, the second Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Or maybe the third one. I don't remember. And he also did the quote-unquote live action How to Train Your Dragon that's coming out like right now.
Okay, well that one is a little bit more live action because dragons aren't real. I'm so sorry, friends. The humans are real, but the dragons are CG.
Yeah, it sucks. So like he's got a specific kind of style, like does action. Like
sure.
He's really known for that. He's got all these like weird zoom effects and stuff. Like he's got a very distinct visual style as a cinematographer. I think it works for this film. You'll see in a minute.
Cool.
Side note, he also did a bunch of music videos in the 80s, even up to now, but like Janet Jackson's Nasty video. He did the video for One by Metallica.
Okay.
And a couple of like Peter Gabriel and Sting videos too. Like
yeah. There were like a lot of directors and cinematographers who got their start doing like music video stuff.
That's pretty common.
Edgar Wright did that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Totally. This film ended up being crazy expensive.
I bet.
You know, they filmed in New York.
They're already expensive.
And I like that when they film a movie in the place, you know, they're not...
Yeah. They're not pretending Toronto is New York or whatever.
Exactly.
Toronto is lovely. It's not New York.
Yeah. This film cost somewhere between $215 million and $250 million.
Owie zowie.
When it was released in 2012, it was one of the... I think top 15 most expensive films ever made.
Okay.
Towards the back of that list, but one of them. It was, however, only the 4th most expensive film of 2012.
Wow.
Yeah, 2012 was an expensive year for films. Any guesses as to what the other 3 are?
I don't know. Marvel movies, some adventure stuffs.
The Avengers,
yeah.
Was one of them.
Did that movie 2012 come out in 2012?
I don't recall, but that was not one of them.
That was not one of them?
One of them is one that you've talked about wanting to do for the show.
I'm totally drawing a blank.
A hugely expensive sci-fi film that was a major flop.
I love so many hugely expensive sci-fi movies that are a major flop. You have to give me more than that.
John Carter.
Oh, yeah!
Yeah, John Carter was the most expensive film of that year, and then the other one was the last Dark Knight Christopher Nolan film.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so, you know... that's the group that it's in.
That's the playing field that we're working with here.
So, yeah.
Also, wow, what a rough group to go. I mean, aside from John Carter, because nobody saw that except for me and my dad. But what a rough group to go up against.
Yeah. We'll talk about how successful the film was later on, but it was kind of a crowded field that year.
I bet.
And with the cost, I mean, it's going to be hard to make back your money on that.
Yeah. But...
we're going to watch this movie now.
Yay.
And I think you're going to like it.
I'm excited.
And I hope you do, because if you hate it, then this is going to be...
it's going to be rough.
It's going to be rough. All right.
See y'all on the other side. Back into
It's It's such a sunny day. Such a sunny day. Such a sunny day. Waves
All right, we're back.
Hey.
So, first impressions.
I liked it. It was a really fun romp.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're right. There's quite a lot of heart there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if I had to take a guess,
Uh-huh.
there was a bit of a backlash to the second film, largely because people sort of felt like they didn't treat the characters right, you know?
Yeah.
That, like, characters just kind of got, like, unceremoniously cut out. Kay's whole arc from the first one is that, you know, he's gonna, like, retire and give up, and then he's gonna live a normal life, and then basically, like, that normal life really sucks, so he comes back into, like, you know,
The job.
Yeah, the job.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, the second one definitely had, like, sequelitis, where they took a lot of the, like, you know, like, sort of funny background bits from the first one, and then, like, turned them into, like, whole things in the second one.
Yeah, the bug aliens having, like, a whole arc, basically.
Yeah, like, being a huge part of it.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that they really did for this movie is I think they tried to treat the characters with some, like, respect.
Yeah.
You know, and basically gave both Jay and Kay, like, a lot of stuff.
Yes,
you know?
yeah, they did, yeah. And they didn't rely too heavily on stuff that was, like, previously established in, like, the first movie.
Yeah, yeah. There are some fun little, you know...
References background bits, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think that, you know...
Motifs, if you will.
The thing that I like about it is that... And I think that this is because Sonnenfeld, like, you know, he's like, I have a vision for this. Like, it seemed like this was something that people wanted to actually make.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just like a soulless cash grab.
Yes.
That's really what it feels like to me.
Yeah, you can tell that there was care put into this movie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think it's a lot of fun. Do you want to do a little plot rundown?
Sure.
The movie opens with they're in a prison.
Yeah.
And this lady is bringing in a cake. Classic bit. Bringing in this cake. And we kind of get the idea that this is like a super high security prison for
Yes.
aliens, perhaps.
Aliens or other intergalactic criminals.
Yeah. So she goes to the cell of this guy, Boris the Animal, who's a very scary dude.
Yeah, weird and gross and scary looking.
Yeah.
I really, super quick, I just want to say, she has like a visitor's tag, but she wears it on a collar around her neck. And
Yeah.
I was looking, I was like, is this something that they make all of the visitors do, or are they doing this for her because she's a sexy lady?
I don't know.
We don't know.
We'll find out. So they scan the cake, and it says that it's got organic material
Yeah,
in
it's
there.
like 94% organic or whatever.
So that's fine. Yeah, no worries. But it turns out that hiding inside the cake is like...
a gross little stabby bug.
Yeah, so I think the idea is that the Boglodite, which is like the alien species that Boris is, they're like a symbiotic like organism. They have like
Yeah.
different parts that are kind of part of the whole. And so one of the creepy, gross spider guys that lives inside of him was in the cake. And now that he's got it, he uses it to escape from the prison. It like shoots these like spikes out
Yeah.
of it. And
Potentially poisonous spikes, but definitely very sharp and very high velocity.
Yep. So it kills all the guards, and he's able to break through. And then there's a scene where there's like an explosive decompression, and the girlfriend is flying out, and he grabs her for a second, but then is kind of like, sorry, like, I don't really care about you that much.
Yeah. Their relationship's not established, and also, you know, if you work for bad guys, if you work at the murder factory, you can't like be surprised when you get killed.
You're gonna get murdered, yeah. So he gets out, and then on the surface of the moon, he says to himself, Agent K, we're gonna rewrite history.
Yeah.
You know, and Hannah pointed out, of course, that, you know...
Yeah, there's not enough atmosphere. He wouldn't be able to say anything.
Yeah, but, you know, it's a movie.
It's stylistic choices.
Mm-hmm. Cut to planet Earth, where Agent K and Agent J are working a case. There's like a crashed ship, and
Very classic UFO.
yeah.
Big gold disc.
and so they have to neuralize everybody. They go back to the headquarters, where it turns out that Zed, the
Rip Torn from the first
Rip Torn
movie.
from the first 2 movies,
Yeah, first 2 movies.
is dead.
He has passed in between movies because Rip Torn died in real life.
No, I'll tell you why when we get to it in a bit. But Rip Torn was unavailable for this film, so they had to go with somebody else.
Yeah, there's someone new in charge of the agency. It's Agent O,
played by Emma Thompson. Kay goes up and gives a eulogy and is like, I knew the man for 40 years. That's it.
Yeah.
And sits down, and Jay is like, dude, you gotta, like, get in touch with your emotions more.
Yeah,
like,
a lot of this movie is Jay trying to forge an emotional connection with Kay that he has not been able to do in the last however many years of their partnership.
Yeah.
And then, you know, there's catharsis for that arc at the end of the movie. Huzzah!
Mm-hmm. After that, they get called to go take down... There's an alien that's running a Chinese restaurant, and the restaurant is selling, like, a bunch of, like, alien meat.
Fish, yeah.
Look, one could, if they wanted to, say that that's kind of a racist trope. That it's like, oh, it's a Chinese restaurant that's selling all this alien stuff.
Suspicious meat, sure.
You know, it's kind of like... But literally everybody in the restaurant is an alien, and, like, it's just sort of, like, too over the top and weird to, like, I feel get really upset about.
Yeah, I could see that.
You know, like, there's a part of me, like, when I was watching it going, is this a little bit racist? But it's so ridiculous that it's like, okay, like, it's not, whatever. One of the foods, Kay immediately pegs as being like, oh, this is the food that Boris the animal liked. And so he knows, but doesn't tell Jay that, like, Boris the animal has escaped and is going to come kill him.
And is coming for me in particular because Agent K shot Boris the animal's arm off, and he was the one who put him in jail.
Yep. Kay thinks to himself, he's like, oh, he's going to come kill me, but, like, he's not opening up. He's not telling Jay about it. He's not giving him the information that he needs to, like, do something about it.
He's making cryptic comments about, like, you know, this wouldn't be terrible for a last meal or anything like that. Like, that's the kind of thing that he's saying. But he's not outright saying, like, there's a guy who is coming to kill me and I don't know that I'm going to survive it.
And he's also, like, reacting to stuff. Like, he's getting really angry and is, like, beating up the head of the Chinese restaurant for, like, reasons that he doesn't explain. And it's just really weird. But then there's a shootout. A bunch of aliens try to kill the two of them, and they seem to be working for Boris. They escape. They fight Boris on a rooftop, and Boris, like, tries to kill Kay but is unsuccessful. But he says, Kay, you're already dead. You just don't know it yet. And you kind of go like, I wonder what that means. So then later that night, Agent J, Will Smith, he's sitting on the couch. He's playing video games. And he gets a phone call from Kay, and Kay's like, I want to open up to you now. There's some stuff that you need to know. And Jay's basically like, fuck you, bud. Like, you've been an asshole today. I'm not interested.
Well, the thing that I think is kind of interesting is that, like, he does give him that opening. Jay does give Kay that opening to, like, say something, and then, like, Kay just can't bring himself to say anything about it. It's just quiet for a while, and so Jay hangs up on him.
Yeah, he's just like, nah, screw this. So then Kay pulls out a gun, and then he, like, sits in his chair facing the door with the gun, and you're like, oh, there's going to be a standoff. But no. He, like, warps and, like, doesn't exist anymore.
He is erased from reality.
And the apartment that he lived in turns into, like, a family apartment, like a woman living with some kids.
Yeah.
So the next day, Jay knocks on the door, and she's there, and Kay's not there. And he's just like, what is going on? But he's got, like, a headache, and he's like, do you have chocolate milk?
He's, like, craving chocolate milk.
So he drinks this chocolate milk. It's important to the plot, I swear. This is
yeah.
a load-bearing chocolate milk. So then he goes back to headquarters.
And he's, like, calling for Kay, trying to be like, hey, man, what are you doing? Like, you weren't at your house.
The first notice that we get that something's off is that the guy at the doorway is different.
Yeah.
It's like a white guy instead of a black guy. And you're sort of like, wait, who's this guy?
Yeah.
He's like, what are you, new? And he's just like, what are you talking about?
I've been here the whole time.
Jay gets on an elevator, and his partner, Agent AA, runs on there and starts talking to him very familiarly.
About something that happened last night.
Which we know did not happen last night.
Yeah.
And Agent AA is played by Will Arnett. And
Very fun walk on, walk off.
yeah,
role.
a
It's
little
great.
little cameo role.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun. Jay like basically yells at everybody. He's like, "All right, guys, guys are playing a prank on me." And then the new head is just like, how do you know Agent K? Like, what's going on? Jay is like, he's my partner. I've known him for years. And she's like, he's been dead for 40 years.
He's been dead for 40 years.
Yeah. It's classic. Yeah. And he asks for someone to bring him chocolate milk.
Yeah, someone comes over and brings them some
He's
chocolate
like
milk.
really craving it. And then she's like, wait a minute. Why do you want chocolate milk? And he's just like, oh, I've been craving it really bad. And she's like, oh, there's probably some kind of temporal.
Yeah, if you're
like,
craving
thing.
chocolate milk, that means that you're having like temporal headaches, which
Yeah.
means that you're in the wrong timeline.
Uh-huh.
So, you know, there's like one person who knows about time travel, and it's this guy who runs like
Yeah.
an electronic shop. His dad invented time travel, and everyone was like, you're not allowed to do that. You're also going to super jail on the moon.
Yeah, so like during the escape on the moon early on, there's a lot of setup and payoff in this movie.
It's really good.
That I actually really appreciate. But while the guy's escaping, Obadiah Price is like, hey, Boris, you told me you'd get me out too. And then Boris kills him. And then they mention later, oh yeah, Obadiah Price created time travel. Maybe his son has it.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Price.
Jeffrey Price.
Which is where Boris gets the time travel device that he travels back in time to kill Kay in the past. Which also prevents Kay from setting up this like shield to protect Earth from an invasion by the Boglodites.
The ArcNet, yeah.
So Jay sees on the screen, oh no, the Boglodites, they're coming to the planet. They're going to destroy Earth. This shit sucks.
Yeah, we have to go back in time to save Kay and put up the figure out how he got and put up the ArcNet and save both the past and the present and the future.
Yep. Jay goes to Jeffrey Price, basically says like, hey man, aliens are attacking. Jeffrey Price is like, oh shit, yeah, okay, I'll help you out. Like, he's kind of reluctant at first, but then he's like, okay.
It's like a true neutral in this. Like, he gave time travel stuff to both the bad guy and the good guy.
Yeah, he's just
like
doing whatever.
I mean, truly, what is he going to do against a Boglodite and or like an agent of a secret shadowy government operation?
Yeah, he's just a guy.
He
Like,
runs an electronics
he's
shop.
just a guy. They get the device, and the way that it works is you have to literally jump to time jump.
From someplace very high, you need to hit like, you know, terminal velocity, basically.
Yep. So he goes to the top of the Chrysler building and jumps off one of the eagle things on the side of the building. But right before he jumps, Jeffrey Price kind of tells him how it works, and Jay kind of mentions that he knows Kay from the other timeline, and the guy kind of stops and he's like, oh, that means you were there. You saw it happen. And he's like, you got to tell me about it later. And we as an audience are like, what does that mean?
What does that mean?
I don't understand. Whatever. We got to jump because the aliens are attacking. And he jumps. The aliens like hit him as he falls. So he like almost loses the device. And then he grabs it. And he goes back to July 15th, 1969. Which, you know, for people who know anything about history would know that that's the day before they launched the rocket to go to the moon.
Yep.
It's important.
Jay has to basically like run around the city, track down Boris.
Yeah.
And he's instructed to stay away from Kay because it could like mess everything up. But of course they immediately run into each other, and then you know Jay has to convince Kay that they are partners in the future, that he's from the future, that they're partners in the future, that like he is in fact an agent. He has a bunch of future knowledge, and you should really give him his space gun back.
Yeah, it's a pretty great little moment there. What they find out is they go to the guy at Coney Island that was killed. He was an alien. And then they go to a bowling alley, and an alien that was killed there, they're both from the same sort of star system
that the Boglodites have all destroyed. Yeah.
And they find out that Glamora, which is the planet where all the models on Earth are from.
Yeah, all of the models are actually aliens.
Yeah, which, you know, is kind of funny. Agent Jay remembers something about a factory when he looked up things earlier. But it turns out it wasn't a factory, it was
the factory.
The factory. So they go to a show, like a fashion show.
A be-in.
At the factory.
With Andy Warhol.
Where Andy Warhol is there. And it turns out that Andy Warhol is Agent W.
Yeah.
And one of the funniest like ideas in the movie. Bill Hader plays Andy Warhol, and he's just so fed up with these people. He's just like, you gotta get me out of here. I hate this.
I'm running out of ideas. I'm down to painting soup cans and bananas.
Yeah. Which is just so like, oh my God.
This did happen after Andy Warhol in real life got shot.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of wondering if they were going to reference that, but they didn't.
No,
but,
they
you know.
didn't. And I bet you, like, in an earlier draft, they probably did, but they had to, like, cut it because it was just, like, too many little, like, bits.
Little bits,
you know?
yeah.
Which I totally understand. But Agent W, Andy Warhol, points out that he's like, no, it's not the Glamorans. It's the Arcanins, which are a different alien species, but they're a weird alien species because they exist in all times and dimensions at once. They can see all possible timelines.
They're a fifth dimensional being.
Yeah. And so we go out there and we meet Griffin. Who is
The best new character.
I love Griffin so much. He's amazing. Griffin
He's
is
just like this weird little dude, and he's wearing so many layers of clothes.
Yeah.
And like everything he says is like a reference to something that could happen or might be happening or
Yeah.
is going to happen.
Yeah, so, they come out and, he's just, like, constantly like, oh, don't worry, here in 2 minutes, this'll happen. Oh, unless this is the time where this happens, and then this'll happen.
Yeah.
He's just, like, constantly, he's just really fun. He's just a bright little ball of sunshine in spite of that,
Yeah, like he's... Okay, so he is a fifth dimensional being who can see all possibilities at once, which means that he is constantly inundating with all of like the worst possible things that could happen. Imagine just like walking down the street and seeing like everybody around you, like Final Destination, die 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And he's still like just this lovely little guy who's just wants the best for people.
Yeah.
It's so sweet.
He tells Agent J, it's a miracle, I'll see you at the game. And that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't make any sense. And so after Boris attacks the factory and they have a fight and they escape, K and J are like, well, where do we go? What do we do? Well, and K's like, let's go get pie. Because that's
Yeah.
what we always do. And J's like, fine, whatever. So they go and they sit there and they get pie.
I think there was a bit there where Jay was like, "We've been doing a bunch of like smart police stuff. Let's
Yeah.
go do something dumb. Let's go get pie."
Yeah.
Whatever.
And so they walk in, and who should be there but a bunch of Mets fans? On July 15th, 1969, the Mets did play the Cubs, although in real life they won that game. But in the movie, it makes it seem like they lost that game. So, I don't know what's up with that. The Mets, they have not been around for very long at this point, and they've been terrible every year. They've been in last place every year, but in 1969, they won the World Series. They were the miracle Mets, the amazing Mets. It was crazy. It was like an unbelievable thing that happened. And Agent J tells Agent K that. He's like, yeah, this is a miracle, and it's going to happen. Everyone's going to love it. And then he stops. He's like, miracle, see you at the game. He's at Shea Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
So they go to Shea Stadium when it's empty. There's nobody there. But Griffin is in there, and he's watching a baseball game, and he's yelling and screaming. He's like, woo! But nothing's happening. And they're like, we don't understand what's going on with this.
And he like puts his arms around them, and in doing that, they can see a game that's going to happen in the future.
Yeah, in just a few months, in October of that year,
Yeah.
where they win the World Series. And he's like mentioning, he's just like, the baseball that was thrown had a slight imperfection, which caused it to be 2 micrometers too high, which caused the baseball player to pop it up into the sky, and it's caught by a player who is only a baseball player because like his parents had an extra glass of wine that evening, and so he was born a boy instead of a girl. Like just like
Yeah.
all of these like little tiny moments that all kind of converge into this perfect thing. And Griffin says, this is my favorite moment in human history.
And he says something really great, which is like, it's still a miracle even if you know how it happens.
Yeah, I believe the way he says it is that a miracle is something that you can't explain how it happens, but it still does,
Yeah.
or something like that. It's a really great line. It's a really great moment, and he gives them this little surprise thing from a Cracker Jack box. And then Boris attacks them.
So Boris grabs him.
Yeah.
He's got like this like alien motorcycle thing. Boris grabs Griffin and takes off on his motorcycle and had hooked something perfectly at their car.
Yeah.
So now they also have to chase Boris down on their own little like unicycle motorcycle thingies.
Yeah, these like circle wheel things
Yeah.
that they sit inside of. Very sci-fi, very futuristic. I think, and they kind of drive past where the World's Fair grounds were, which is near Shea Stadium.
Yeah.
At least where it used to be. I think that's a reference. I think that's like a World's Fair future.
Well, I mean, it's also
tech.
a reference to the first movie because that's where the last action scene took place.
That's true. That is where
Yeah.
the Vincent D'Onofrio fight scene happens. That's right.
The giant bugs, and then he kicks that dumpster, and a bunch of Madagascar hissing cockroaches fall out.
Yeah. Cool stuff. But they catch up to him, and they do the old Texas two-step, which is something that they've both done in the future, but they've never, so
Yeah.
there's a fun little moment. So Kay and Jay, they save Griffin, and they break Boris's motorcycle, but Boris escapes.
Yes.
Griffin then shows them the ArcNet, which he's like hiding in his
head pocket.
Yeah, it's
He's got like an empty space around his head underneath his hat, and that's where the ArcNet's been hiding.
Yep, he puts it into the little thing that they pulled out of the Cracker Jack box.
I mean, he exists in the fifth dimension. I'm pretty sure he can hide whatever he wants, wherever he wants.
Yeah, exactly. And then they have to get to Cape Canaveral to launch it into space because the moon landing launch is happening the next day.
And the ArcNet has to be launched into space so that the ArcNet can protect Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Can't do it from the Earth. It has to be in space.
Yep. So they can't drive there because the red button hyperdrive thing in the car doesn't exist yet.
Yep.
So they have to use jetpacks. It's kind of fun. They fly on jetpacks all the way down to Florida. They land at Cape Canaveral, and they walk straight up to the launch site, and they're going to try and like use the neuralizer to get in, but then Griffin's like, you have to tell the truth.
Yeah, the only scenario in which this works and you guys save everything is if you are telling the truth.
Yeah.
So of course they do, and they immediately get arrested for being a bunch of raving lunatics.
Yep. One of the like recurring themes of this movie, Griffin kind of says this a lot, is that like telling the truth and being honest is better than telling a lie. You know, that like if you are honest and truthful and forthright about something that you're doing, like, which is funny for a movie about a bunch of like secret government agents.
Yeah.
But like that's like one of the themes of the film.
It's a little bit like, you have to be honest on a personal level, on like
Yeah.
a structural level. Maybe it's okay to lie to people about the existence of aliens sometimes.
Yeah. And he does kind of lie later on. We'll
Yeah.
get there.
But yeah, so with the whole lying thing, when Jay first landed in the past and he was talking with Kay, he tried lying to him, and Kay was like, no, tell me the truth. And so he did tell him the truth, that
Yeah.
he's from the future and he's here to stop the Boris from destroying all of Earth.
When he told the truth, Kay believed him.
Kay believed him.
Yeah.
But he's like, there's still something else that you're not telling him. And the bit that Jay wasn't telling him was that Kay is going to die, and he
Yeah.
also wants to stop that from happening. So when they are deciding that they have to go to Cape Canaveral, Jay is like, you can't go, you're gonna die there.
Yeah.
And Kay gets so mad he punches him in the face because Jay had lied to him about that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
They get brought before this colonel, and the colonel is in charge of the launch site, like protecting it. And basically they tell the colonel, hey, we're telling you the truth, this is what's happening. And he's just like,
You're insane.
You guys are insane. Bring him to the brig. And then Griffin touches him on the arm and shows him everything that's happening. And then the colonel's like, hang on, you guys are dismissed. It'll be okay.
I'll take it from here.
I'll take it from here. And he leads them to the launch site to help them launch the ArcNet. Basically, he's like, he showed me how important this was.
Yeah.
But before that happens, Griffin says, I can't be here anymore. I have to go.
And after they walk off and Griffin is also walking away, he's like, I can never watch this part.
Yeah.
That's a good little bit of like tension building.
It is. It's really cool because he's already sort of said that it's going to work out. But when he says, I can't watch this part, there's like there's something sad that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And early on, he said, like, yes, you can save Kay, but if there's a death, there's always going to be death.
Yeah.
And we're always like, what does that mean? Okay. So they climb up. They go way up onto the rocket, and then there's a fun fight scene where K and J fight both past and future Boris, who are kind of a hoot. They're a lot of fun. Very creepy and weird and gross.
Yeah, they did a really good job at being weird and creepy and gross.
Yeah. To get the ArcNet on top of the rocket. At one point, future Boris is going to kill past J or past K, so J has to stop him. And he realizes that he can't do it because if he charges Boris is just going to shoot him with spikes. So he decides, I'm going to use my time thing, and he like kind of predicts he finds out where the shots are going to be, and then he jumps off, rewinds time, and then he dodges the spikes the second time.
Yeah, because he already knows where they're going to be.
Which is a fun little clever thing, and then he kicks future Boris off the top of the rocket, down into the exhaust area where the launch happens.
Yeah, that also helps cover the whole thing with, like, you know, a lot of the times when there is a movie or media where there is a time travel device,
yeah,
there's always the question, why did you never use that again? It's the most useful tool. Like,
yeah.
You could just constantly be rebooting everything to like give yourself the best possible run at something.
Yeah.
So I like that they included that as like no, they did. It's a tool. He used the tool.
Yeah, he did a good job. Then we see Kay shoot off the arm of Boris in the past, which we knew was going to happen. He puts the ArcNet on top of the rocket. The rocket launches.
There's a funny bit where he has to like jump from the scaffolding onto the rocket, and like all three of the astronauts inside see him, and they're like, if we report this, they're going to scuttle the launch. And one of the other guys is like, I didn't see anything.
Yeah. Agent K gets on a big slidey thing and escapes where the rocket launch is, and he assumes that Jay did as well.
Yeah, he assumes that Jay used his time travel device to go back to the future.
Yeah.
Because his job was done.
Yes, but Jay decides that he's actually going to slide off and, not do that. Not really sure why.
I think that he knows that future Boris is dead, but past Boris is still alive, because the first time around, Kay shot his arm off, but then arrested him.
He knows,
and he had said before, you can't arrest him, you have to kill him.
Yes, he knows something's going to happen.
Yeah, so I think he just wanted to be there to help if necessary, like take the shot if Kay wouldn't.
Yep. So he slides down there, and then he watches a scene play out where Kay and the Colonel, who is in charge of the launch site, get attacked by past Boris. Past Boris kills the Colonel, and then Kay, instead of arresting him, shoots him.
Yeah.
You get one last shot of gross, open-faced Boris. He's, like, really freaky looking. And then there's a sad scene.
It's a very sad scene.
Where this very small boy gets out of the car, and early on, the Colonel said that his son was watching the launch with him.
Yeah.
And this sad boy gets out of the car and is like, what happened to my dad? And we realize that that's Agent J as a kid.
It's little baby James.
And the Colonel was his dad.
Yeah.
And Agent K kind of can't explain the situation to him because he's so young. He's like a little kid.
Yeah, and this is also a man who I have to assume has not had a whole lot of interaction with children.
Yeah.
So, like, managing small people's emotions is difficult enough as it is, but, like, breaking the news to a child that his dad is dead in ways that can never be explained.
Yeah.
I'd probably neuralize that kid too.
So he neuralizes the kid and tells him that
your dad's
a hero. So basically he forgot seeing his dad die. He forgot seeing the space
shuttle launch, yeah.
Shuttle, rocket, whatever. But, like, it's, like, really fucking sad. They just walk away on the beach.
They just walk down the beach, and, like, now he's got to contact the mom and tell her that, I'm so sorry your husband died.
Yep. And then so Jay then
gets zooped back to the future.
Yeah. Because essentially, like, because the whole thing stopped, he doesn't have to be there anymore, so he just kind of jumps back. He walks right into the diner where Kay is sitting eating pie.
Already.
And he just kind of, like, says, hey, we talked about this, we talked about, that, we did this thing last night, do you remember that? And he's just like, yeah. And then he sets the watch down, and he's just like, this, right here.
Yeah.
And he just like, I want to say thank you. And Kay says, it's been a privilege.
Aww.
And it's just like a really beautiful little moment.
Yeah.
And then they go off on their next adventure. And then Griffin, who is watching in the diner, says this is his new favorite moment in human history. Before there's one last little joke that kind of sucker punches the moment, but it's a movie in 2012. What do you expect?
Yeah, well, yeah, you have to have that fake out right at the end.
Yeah, I would actually say, as much as I love this movie, maybe my biggest criticism of it is that there were too many times where they couldn't let the feelings sit. They had to undercut it with a joke.
I agree. Yes.
Which, by the way, the year is 2012. The Avengers came out this year. Like, the Joss Whedonification of all, like,
Summer
films
blockbusters,
and
yeah.
everything was happening at this moment.
Absolutely.
So, like, I get why it is. There's also a couple of times where, like, the movie does such a great job planting and payoff. There's a few times where the character has to say the plant from earlier, like you don't remember.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's just, they're not respecting their audience enough. And it does undermine the movie a little bit, but only a little bit.
Yeah, like right at the end, when Will Smith says the line again of like, after he sees the colonel die, the line of like, if there's death, there always has to be death.
Yeah,
Like, man, we were there. It was like 5 minutes ago.
We get it. Yeah. So, that's my biggest critique of the film. But other than that,
it's really good.
I fucking love this movie so much.
I had a great time.
I had so much fun with this. I ran a D&D campaign once where the guy who sort of gave the party their mission was basically Griffin.
Aww.
Yeah, he was essentially like a time wizard, a divination wizard, who just saw all futures happening at once, which made him a little bit crazy.
Yeah,
but he was like that. I had so much fun playing that character. I love that character.
It's good. It's a good character. It's really fun every time he says like, unless we're in the world where like this happened, or like unless we're on the time when this happened.
And also, I just really like the idea that he's just like, hey, my planet got destroyed by these guys. I don't want that to happen to you.
I know, that's really good.
And that's it. That's all. That's all he cares about. All he cares about is that something bad happened to me, and I want to make sure it doesn't happen to anybody else.
Yeah.
Also, I really like baseball. Like that is the most like. Not since Star Trek has there been a show that has been more hopeful about the future and aliens and also loves baseball.
Yeah.
I love it. It's beautiful. It's a wonderful moment. There's so many great little, like, good pathos moments, and it's not a perfect film. Let me be very clear about this.
Sure.
There are absolutely things that you can pick about this movie. There are absolutely problems with this film. It's 2012. There's some, like, there's like a joke where the Andy Warhol character is like, oh, I can't tell the difference between the men and the women. It's just like, yeah, that's a shitty joke.
Yeah.
Like that, by the way, I would hope they wouldn't make now, but like it was 2012. Things were different back then. Even that short ago, it was different back then.
Yeah, it is truly wild every so often when you stop and think about, like, hey, do you remember in the 2000s when there was that whole ad campaign about, like, don't say gay as, like, a pejorative? Mm-hmm. Like, Wanda Sykes and Hilary Duff were there?
Yeah.
Wild times.
I love the bit where the kid sees Aging Jay drinking chocolate milk, and he's like, the president's drinking my milk.
He didn't say please.
He didn't say please. It was very funny and also very obvious. Oh, yeah, 2012, right, of course. Yeah. I'm just going to briefly go over the actors. A lot of them I don't need, like Will Smith. You know who Will Smith is.
You know who Will Smith is.
Like,
yeah.
He does a great job. Like,
you know who Tommy Lee Jones is. You probably know who Josh Brolin is.
I will say, though, like, I'm not huge on Will Smith as an actor. Let me be clear about that. I don't think he's an amazing actor. I don't think he's a bad actor. I just don't think he's like...
I think that he does like one thing that he does really well, and extremely occasionally he can break out of that. But for the most part, he does the one thing really well.
But here's the thing. Here's why I think it works. Everyone else in this movie is like a really good actor, and Will Smith is like not quite as good as a lot of them. He sort of feels a little out of his depth. but that's the character.
Yes.
Like, Jay is a little out of his depth. He's around people who know more things and are more competent, and it kind of works.
He keeps saying in this, like, I'm a level 1 senior agent, like class 1 senior agent. Why don't I know all of these things?
Yeah.
And he keeps being told, yeah, there's still some things above your pay grade.
Yeah, which, I feel like it works in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tommy Lee Jones, fantastic. Josh Brolin, if you don't...
Such a good job being young,
Dude,
Tommy Lee Jones.
Josh Brolin as young Agent K, he should have won a fucking Oscar.
I agree with that.
There
yeah.
are people online to this day that you mentioned Josh Brolin was in this movie. They're like, who? Who was he? And you're like, he was young K. And they're like, wait, they didn't like digitally de-age Tommy Lee Jones?
Are you serious? People thought that?
People still think that
Wow.
shit. They don't realize that it's Josh. He does such a good job. It's amazing. And this was like, Josh Brolin is kind of a big name actor now. You know, he was Thanos and he's like done it. But at this point, like, he did The Goonies in the 80s, and then, like, he was in No Country for Old Men in 2007.
Yeah.
Like, people didn't know him super, super well in 2012.
He was in that American remake of Old Boy.
Yeah. Obviously, like, some people knew him. He wasn't, like, unknown, but he was not, like, a household name the way he is, I think,
Yeah.
now. Totally steals the show, I think, as...
Fantastic job.
Yeah, he's great. Boris is played by Jermaine Clement from Flight of the Conchords.
He's
And
having so much
He's
fun.
having so much fun. The scene where young and old Boris like yell at each other is a great scene.
It's so good.
It's just like, it was not me who failed, it was you.
Stop looking at it.
Yeah. It's just like, it's really good. And I think when I first heard that Jermaine Clement was playing the bad guy in this movie, I was just like, I like Jermaine, but he's not like a serious actor. He's like a comedic actor. But like, this is how you play that. He's a
Yes.
scary, gross monster alien, but there's like some humor there. You know,
Yeah.
he's kind of funny. And he plays the over the top but straight very well.
Yeah. So Jermaine Clements is like applying his comedic chops to being as over the top as possible.
Yes.
And like that's what kind of makes the character work.
It works great. I absolutely love it.
Those prosthetics were really good. Like when we first started watching this movie, Donovan was like, "Do you know who that is? Do you recognize him? You know who that is?" And I'm like, "You have to tell me. I
Yeah.
don't know this man."
No. I think that's great. Dame Emma Thompson is Agent O.
Oh, so good. I could wax poetic forever about how great Emma Thompson is.
Yes, Emma Thompson, for those who don't know, she like started on stage as like a Shakespearean actor, but she's done everything. She was Trelawney in the Harry Potter series. She was Nanny McPhee. She was in Love Actually. She's in tons of stuff. She
was the angel in Angels in America.
Yeah.
She was in a bunch of like film adaptations of Shakespeare. She was Much Ado About Nothing. Like, yeah, she's so good.
she actually reprises this role in the fourth Men in Black movie.
There's a fourth Men in Black movie?
Yeah,
Oh,
International with
Yeah,
Chris
yeah.
Hemsworth, and I have not seen that movie. I didn't hear good things about it, but I did think it was interesting that she was kind of the point of continuity into that movie. So the reason she's in this is because Rip Torn was in trouble when this movie was in production.
I don't remember this.
Rip Torn broke into a bank while drunk with a gun.
What?
Yeah. I don't know the whole situation about that, but basically that was happening right when they were making this movie, and they're like, we can't have him in the movie.
Yeah, no, you would not be able to get any insurance agency on the face of the planet to insure that.
So they just killed off Zed off screen. I don't think it's that big a deal. Some people had a problem with it, I guess. I don't know. I thought that they treated it with respect.
Yeah.
And I think having Agent O in this movie kind of brings another interesting layer because she has a history with K, as we find out.
Yeah.
Young Agent O is played by Alice Eve. Alice Eve was Dr. Marcus in Star Trek Into Darkness. She was on Entourage. She was on Iron Fist. She's been on a few other things. Well-known enough actress.
Yeah.
I think she does a pretty good job, although young Agent O is not as big a character as old Agent O. But she's got a little bit of chemistry with Josh Brolin. It's not too bad.
Yeah.
I kind of like it. Griffin is played by Michael Stuhlbarg. He's fantastic. He's been in everything for like one episode or like one scene.
Yeah, I was looking at his IMDb page, and like there's a lot of stuff where I was like, I watched that. I remember that guy. Wow, I hated that guy in that. And
Yeah.
he's just like so delightful in this.
Yeah, he's like he's in a lot of movies just playing like a weird random person here and there. He was nominated for like Tony Awards. He was like a stage actor and stuff. Great stuff. Like the only thing that you might know him from, so he was like a small part in Lincoln. He's a small part in a bunch of movies. Shape of Water. Like
if you watched Dope Sick, he was Richard Sackler in Dope Sick.
he was
Of the Sackler family.
He was Nicodemus West in both of the Doctor Strange movies, and then he was his main thing that I think a lot of people remember him from is he was Arnold Rothstein in Boardwalk Empire.
Yeah.
Like he was in basically like all of Boardwalk Empire. He was in one of the seasons of Fargo. Really good. Like,
Mance has been in stuff, and I watched all of Dope Sick, and like he plays Richard Sackler, like of the Sackler family.
Yeah.
And like I was watching this, I was like, oh, I hate you, you weaselly little man. And now I'm watching this, and I'm like, I love you, you silly fluffy creature.
Yeah, he's great in this. Like he really just like plays such a great character and does such a great job. Walks a tight line because there's a way that this character could have been way over the top, especially because he's kind of fourth wall breaking.
Yeah.
He sort of like talks to the audience at 1 or 2 points. You could have really messed that up, but I think they did a good job with it.
Yeah, I agree. It
Oh.
wasn't like over the top.
Speaking of almost messing something up, I forgot to mention this a second ago. Do you know who they originally wanted to play young Agent K?
Who?
Mark Wahlberg.
No.
Yeah.
He does not have the acting chops.
The fact that this movie was that close, like literally, Mark Wahlberg instead of Josh Brolin makes this a terrible film. Like it's so hard to find one part where you switch an actor and it just completely torpedoes the film. If Mark Wahlberg was in this fucking movie, we would not be talking about it right now.
They wanted Cage to be, Nicolas Cage to be Aragorn in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Funny you mentioned Luke Cage.
Yeah.
Because Colonel Edwards, Agent J's father, is played by Mike Coulter, who was Luke Cage on all the Netflix Marvel stuff. And he was also on The Good Wife and The Good Fight, and he's Jameson Locke in the Halo video game series.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Pretty cool. Jeffrey Price is played by a guy named Michael, I believe it's Chernis. He's been a bunch of stuff, but the main thing I know him from right now is he's the brother-in-law in Severance. He's Dr. Laszlo or whatever.
He's such an insufferable prick in Severance.
It's really good, yeah.
Just reminds me of like, oh god, this is going to be very specific and a little bit dark. When I was a teenager, my mom died, and afterwards there were a bunch of people who kept trying to like treat me gently with like kid gloves and stuff, and I'm like, just fucking talk to me like an adult, god damn it. And like, if you condensed all of those people into one person, it would be that character.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. And he plays that role really well. And Jeffrey Price in this movie, he plays really well too. He's just a slimy like electronics merchant in New York City.
He just kind of like wants to get from one day to the next and survive and probably sell somebody some TVs that are suspiciously lowly priced.
Yeah, really fun stuff.
Also probably a little bit high.
Probably a little bit. He does say you have to get high.
Yeah.
To go back in time. Mr. Wu, the Chinese restaurant owner, is played by a guy named Ken Jeong.
Yeah.
The reference to Mr. Wu is that he plays Wu in Deadwood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's been in a bunch of stuff.
He was also Buck Bokia, the baseball player from that episode of Deep Space Nine.
Ah.
You know the one. He's done tons of voice acting work. He was like on G.I. Joe. He did American Dragon, Jake Long. He did Hi Hi Puffy Amiyumi. He did Samurai Jack. He did Justice League. He's done tons of voice acting work. He's been in tons of stuff.
Yeah.
He's great.
Yeah. Agreed.
Really fun, and again, it's part of the reason why I personally can't get so mad at that scene, because I'm like, he's so good. I like him so much as an actor. Anyway, Bill Hader, Andy Warhol, SNL, very funny. Love that guy. Boris's girlfriend is a lady by the name of Nicole Scherzinger. She was one of the Pussycat Dolls.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
I was looking at her, I'm like, her face looks familiar, but I don't remember. And I was never a Pussycat Dolls fan, so
No, I can't say that I was either, but
You say one of the Pussycat Dolls, she was the Pussycat Doll. It was like basically she did all of the vocals and most of the dancing, and everybody else was just kind of there to make her look good.
Really?
Like a little bit, yeah.
I don't know anything about the Pussycat Dolls, so
I mean, I might be wrong about that, but like that's what I remember is that like she sang all of the lead parts and then everybody else just kind of did backup.
yeah.
Although, you know, I have an imperfect memory and this was, oh my God, was it 2 decades ago or was it 1 decade ago?
They went from 2003 to 2009, so
I'm going to crumble into dust.
it's been about 20 years. Bowling Ball Head,
Yeah.
the alien bowling ball head, is a guy by the name of Lenny Levito. He had a recurring role in The Sopranos. And he was also in 2 episodes of Flight of the Conchords.
Nice.
He was like the mugger in that one episode where Jermaine gets mugged.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, kind of a fun little connection to Boris there. He was also an extra in Men in Black 2. So he's a series regular.
Yeah, proven work ethic.
He's done tons of TV work. He's been in every single cop show in existence. He was in...
Yeah, I bet. He's a weird little Italian guy who lives in New York.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. He talks like this.
Yeah.
He looks like he does. Yeah. So, the reception of this movie, largely positive, but not, like, overwhelmingly so.
Sure.
You know, people tended to like it, especially because people tended to really dislike the second one. It was not a movie that anybody was like, this is my favorite movie ever, A+, like, Oscar Best Picture, but, like, lots of people gave it, like, 3 out of 4 stars and 4 out of 5 stars and said, it's pretty good. It's, like, you know, it's an improvement on the third one. There was at least one really bad review. Rene Rodriguez of the Miami Herald gave it 1 out of 4 stars. This is on the Wikipedia page. I have to read it. Men in Black 3 is so dull and empty. It's the first movie that has ever made me think, oh, thank God this is in 3D.
Wow.
Which is very funny, but also like, fuck you.
Oh, okay. So I also appreciate that even though this movie was in 3D, there was none of that really annoying. I didn't know, because like a lot of the times when you watch 3D movies, when it's not in 3D, they'll have those scenes where it's like, here, catch, whoa,
There
and the
are-
thing like comes at the screen.
There are a couple of moments. Some of the effects, like, you know, like especially when the time travel stuff is happening and when he's like
Sure.
jumping off the building and like the tentacles are coming at but it's subtle.
It's subtle enough that I didn't
Yeah.
notice.
Paul Thomas Anderson, the director, he directed, you know, Boogie Nights and There Will Be Blood, a couple of great movies. He was like the most positive review I could find about it. Again, this is on the Wikipedia page here, but he says it was fucking great. The time travel stuff made me cry my eyes out. I'm a sucker for that stuff.
Aww.
And I'm kind of with you, Paul. I'm with you on this one.
Yeah.
Like I really do feel that.
I have a thing where when I'm watching something and I can tell that the thing is trying to like manipulate my emotions to make me feel so a way, like I'll feel it, but I'll also be mad about it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, anytime this is not a good example because this is like, you know, just good storytelling. But
Yeah.
like, you know, at the end of Homeward Bound, when like, you know, you think that the one dog died and then he comes and everybody's so sad and like the little boy is like, he's just too old. And then he comes over the hill and everybody's so happy. That is a good example of the thing that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Where like I can accept that this is like good storytelling.
Yeah.
But you know, like just any random like thing where they're like trying to get you to like feel a specific way, it just makes me angry. I didn't feel angry at the end of this movie.
Yeah.
It did feel like emotionally satisfying. It did feel cathartic.
I agree with you. Oh, and I mentioned earlier, the music was done by Danny Elfman. I forgot to mention that in the episode. Yeah, Danny Elfman did the music for the first 2. He also did it for this one, which is great.
It sounds really good.
Yeah, you can tell. And
Yeah, it sounds Danny Elfman-y.
So this film was successful.
Okay.
So it cost $250 million.
Yeah.
A lot of that cost was, apparently they started filming the movie in 3D, and then they decided that wasn't going to be what they did, so then they filmed it in 2D and then used post-production to make it 3D. So I think that's probably why that cost was ballooned, a lot of effects, budget,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. It made $650 million,
Okay.
which is a pretty solid return. You made more than double.
Yeah.
You know, not like a runaway success, not like, oh my God, you killed it, but solid.
Yeah.
You know, I mentioned earlier that 2012 was kind of a big year for movies, kind of a crowded year. Men in Black 3 was the 10th highest grossing film of that year. 9 films did better than it.
Yeah. Number 1, Avengers.
Number 1 is Avengers. And Dark Knight Rises, which I mentioned earlier, that was number 3.
Yeah.
Hunger Games.
Oh, okay.
Madagascar 3.
Yeah.
Amazing Spider-Man, the Andrew Garfield one.
Is that the first one?
I believe so.
Okay.
Twilight Saga Breaking Dawn Part 2.
Oh, my sister and I went and watched that.
Yep. Ice Age Continental Drift. I'm surprised it's that high. Number 4, Hobbit. First Hobbit movie.
Okay.
And then the number 2 highest grossing film of that year, Skyfall. James Bond.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fun.
We'll be getting to
That one
later.
eventually.
Yeah. A really strong year for box office.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if you're talking about like movies, 4 movies made $1 billion.
Jeez and Pete.
Like, that's
insane.
completely wild.
That is so much money.
Yeah. This movie did pretty well. Considering that it was kind of a 10-year-old franchise, like, well, not 10-year-old franchise, but a franchise that had not done anything in 10 years.
Yeah.
That people had kind of left the public consciousness. Like, it did well. And I think that it really came down to the fact that it was just a pretty darn good movie. And I think it's worth your time.
I definitely agree. Yeah.
Yeah, if you are a lover of sci-fi films, if you're a lover of weird kitschy alien movies, you know, if you're a lover of like, oh, I forgot to mention one of my favorite things is that, you know, you see the aliens in like modern Men in Black, and then they go back to 1969, and the aliens in 1969 are like all like 1960s monster movie aliens.
Yeah.
Like they're all wearing weird suits and like
Low-key a little bit implying that like humans or that aliens adjust what they look like to kind of like match what the humans think that they should look like.
But I think this is really worth your time, and it's heartfelt. There is a human story to tell here, and I'm gonna end this episode on kind of a rant. Can I end this episode on kind of a rant?
Yeah, go for it.
I want to have a feeling. When I watch a movie, I want to feel something.
Yeah.
Literally anything. Like, I want to feel scared. I want to feel excited. I want to feel happy. I want to feel an emotion. And, like, this movie is about things. So many fucking movies nowadays just aren't about anything. They're not doing anything. They're just like, oh, here's Spider-Man. You know Spider-Man. And they throw him at your face.
Yeah.
And they're like, take Spider-Man. You love Spider-Man. Just take him. Fucking. Like... And you're just sort of like, what the hell was that? Like, you know, you kind of enjoy the movie, but then afterwards you're like, wait, what happened in that movie? Spider-Man fought some guy, I guess. Like
Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man in Paris.
Yeah, exactly. Too many Spider-Man 3, too many Spider-Man.
Too many Spider-Man.
It just like flies out of your brain. You know, you just like don't really know what the movie was about afterwards. And if someone says, oh, hey, like, how did you like it? You go, it's fine.
It was fine. I had a good time.
I hate that shit. I would rather you make bad movies. I would
Yeah.
rather you make a movie that's a train wreck, because then I can at least remember watching a fucking train wreck.
I can experience an emotion, that being anger.
Yeah, or something. Just like the film industry today, in general, and I think the MCU is a big part of this, but it was not the only culprit, is that there's all of these well-executed soulless films.
Yeah.
That, like, you watch it and you're entertained and you're like, this was fine. The acting was good. The effects were fine. The scenes worked. The pacing was all right. But then you leave and you kind of go, what happened? It just doesn't affect you at all.
I'm pretty sure when he took over Disney the first time, Bob Iger said, we have no obligation to make good art. We only have an obligation to make movies.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a theory or like an idea that a lot of people have run with of like, we might accidentally make some good art, but mostly what we're supposed to do is make movies that make money. And that's sad.
This is why you break this process up. This is why you give a bunch of money to a director and you just let them go.
Yeah.
Like, this is why you do that kind of stuff. Because when you meddle and you make these, like, you know, designed by committee films, the Star Wars sequels, to me, are the worst offender of all of them. Aside from Rise of Skywalker, which I think is kind of a train wreck, Solo and, you know, Last Jedi and Force Awakens, they're all fine. Like, they're not bad. The prequels are bad. The sequels aren't bad. They're just boring.
They just are.
They just exist, and they're lame and they're dumb. And it's like, I understand why some people like the prequels better. It's because even though they were stupid and like badly made, there was a heart to them. Like there was like George Lucas actually cared about that thing.
He had a story that he wanted to tell. It wasn't a great story,
No.
but goddamn, he was going to do it.
George Lucas sucks. Like, let me be clear about this. He's not a good director. He got lucky with the first Star Wars because he had like a really good idea and he just like figured it out.
And had a bunch
then,
of people working for him who were also excellent.
And then he handed off for the second and third one. And then, like, he should have done that for the fucking prequels, but he made them himself, and they're train wrecks of films, but they're, like, heartfelt, like, you can tell he, like, wanted them to be good. And then the sequels are the opposite. The sequels are heartless and, like, soulless and boring, and they're not really about anything, and, you know, things just sort of happen, but, like, all the actors on screen, they're doing a good job. They're all solid actors, but, like, there's no core of their story. There's no arc. There's no anything.
Yeah.
And then it changes from movie to movie because we may have had like 4 different people step in and do the 3 different movies at one point or another. God. Anyway, what I'm saying is Men in Black 3, I don't think Sony wanted to make high art, but like they gave Sonnenfeld like money to do something. He had a vision, and like Ethan Coen wrote a pretty good script, and then those other guys like helped out in a way, and like everybody kind of came together, and they didn't hire Mark Wahlberg to be in the fucking movie. Thank you. Casting director, whoever you were, you cast Josh Brolin as young Agent K instead of Mark Wahlberg. I love you. Like, you know, you saved everything. You saved the world. Anyway,
It's all of the little moments that came together to create the miracle.
Oh, oh my God!
It's the theme of the movie.
There's an emotional arc to our podcast now. This is amazing. Hannah?
Yeah.
I can't actually do this. I was gonna be like, "Would you marry me?" And that would be like just an amazing like, whoa. No, we're gonna wait on that.
Thank God.
Anyway, dear listeners, this movie was great. You guys are great. All 5 of you. Like, I love you so much. You know who you are.
Yeah, this is a fun one. Go check it out if you haven't seen it. If you, like me, were kind of hesitant because you watched the second one and it wasn't that good, and you're like, I don't want to watch another dumb cash grab. It's not that. It's a good movie. Go watch it.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm Donovan.
I'm Hannah.
And we'll see you next time.
Toodles.
Thanks for listening. You can find us at mythingyourthing.com or at mythingyourthingpod on social media. Thanks to RK Maroon for letting us use their song Macaroni Art from the EP You Can't Eat Horses. You can get it at rkmaroon.bandcamp.com. If you have a thing you think we should talk about, email us at mythingyourthingpod@gmail.com, and maybe that could be our thing.